Hello and welcome back to another episode of Braithwaite's World. On this episode we're at the NEC Classic and Restoration Show looking at all sorts of cars, stuff on sale, stuff being worked on and stuff being polished. So part of the Classic and Restoration Show is a large car auction held by Classic Car Auctions. Here we're just wandering around some of the catalogue of cars that they had available for sale. Everything from European classics, British classics, projects, to more modern Australian cars, such as this Holden, finished in beautiful orange, burnt orange with graphics. Brand new, sold from new in the UK, but badged as a Holden, not a Vauxhall. Other cars on sale were P1800 Volvo, 32 Ford Hot Rod Cabrio, and then stuff from the stock Volvo up to these two custom hot rods. One being a supercharged V12 powered T-bucket styled thing with some quite impressive exhaust pipes. Exhaust headers, I suppose. Classic Capris as well on sale. Again, project cars to newer Porsches to just anything and everything classic or interesting was on offer. And I'd never wandered around the auction lots before, but it was actually quite an experience to see what all the different cars that were on for sale, the variety, the different eras, the different states of needing repair or not, as it were, and the fact that some of the cars weren't standard. For example, this MG has an MX-5 engine and different things like that. The car of the show, the whole show for me though, was this Holden LJ Tirana GTR XRU1, one of 200 homologation specials, and that pink is the factory colour, and that is the car that I would have taken home above everything else at the show. Again, an example of the variety from the auction house is Porsche 914 to Lamborghini Tractor. Anything and everything was for sale. So after wandering through the catalogue of cars for sale at the Classic Car Auctions, I then moved on to the Car Club Hall to see what was on offer there. I've done the NEC show in November, but this was my first time doing this show, and what stood out for me, while the show was quieter, it was a lot more involved. There was a greater selection of cars on offer, rally versions, restored versions, restored perfect, period correct cars. For example, this Morris Minor. But it wasn't just standard cars, there were high quality modified cars and things you might not have seen before at all. For example, this customised Mercedes with metal flake roof. But the main thing was that because of the variety of clubs, if there was a car you were interested in, you could ask the club about it. So I took some time to interview a member of the Wartburg, Trabant and IFA club. I'm here with Richard of the IFA, Wartburg, Trabant Club, General Eastern European Vehicle Club.
Yeah.
So why Trabants, Richard?
I've got an East German partner, and I think that was probably my first introduction to vehicles from behind the Iron Curtain. Had no intention of getting a Trabant, but came back from a trip to East Germany once with one of these German vans, Barker's van, 3-cylinder 2-stroke van, and from there the interest grew a little bit, and I was offered a couple of Trabants for a couple of £100, and it seemed too good to be true, and did those up, and that they moved on, and then I found another one near me in Colchester, which was one of the old army Trabants, so it's open top. They call it a Kugelwagen, a bucket car. So looks a little bit like a mini moke until you see them next to each other, and then you realise they're not that similar, but an open top thing. So, and that's quite good fun little car. So, and it's good and reliable, and been all over the place in it. So, yeah.
In the unfortunate event you were at the side of the road, what's sort of the last person or thing you'd really want to see? Like, I suppose with your open top car, like a big black rain cloud or something like that sort of thing.
Yeah, the Trabant I got, the soft top, it does have a fold back top, and so it's and I was surprisingly good, because the first journey I did with it was Colchester to Berlin, and I really thought I was going to freeze, and it was November. I was going for the 25th anniversary of the fall of the wall, and I took sleeping bags and extra socks and thick pullovers, and I really thought I was going to freeze, and it's like toast. I did most of the journey in a t-shirt, but I have been out in it in a cloudburst with no size to it, and I have got wet. So big vehicles are good because you can slipstream behind them. They sort of suck you along.
That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. If you could go back to when they were designing the Trabant or the Kugelwagen and tell the designer something you'd like improved, what would it be?
Oh, crikey. Maybe a bit quieter. They can be being 2-stroke, 2-cylinder, they can be a bit noisy. Somebody likened the noise to a skeleton falling off a tin roof. So it can be
a bit of a noise.
Yeah, because it's only got 4 gears, and so once you're in 4th gear at doing 30, you're in the same gear then until you're getting up to 40, 50, 60. So the engine's screaming a little bit by then, so maybe a 5th gear.
Favourite sort of flaw or quirk of the car, something that's, most people may complain about, but actually you love about a Trabant or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I suppose the design is a bit of a throwback. The design of what most people regard as a Trabant goes back to early 1960s, and the design remained unchanged pretty much all the way through to the last ones came off the production line in 1991. The appearance of them, there were a lot of technical changes, but the factory did produce a number of upgrades and redesign them, and so the Trabant could have evolved into something looking a little bit more modern several times in its life, but the political masters over the factory sort of always said that it wasn't necessary or they couldn't afford it. So it is. I suppose that gives it its charm, the fact that it looks pretty much the same over its 30-year construction period. But yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's sort of similar to something like a Lada, where they didn't change a lot over their year period, but that adds to their sort of charm and their sort of appeal to a lot of people. No, thank you for answering our questions, Richard. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Cheers. That's the beauty with this show, or any of these shows, is you can just talk to people and you can ask them any questions you like about the car if you're thinking of buying one, or you can ask questions and then get told stories of adventures they've had or other memories they've got of the car, and that's what I really enjoy about cars, as well as the mechanical side of things, is the stories and the memories and the adventures that people have had. Unsuccessful adventures. They've tried to get somewhere, or they've tried to get back from somewhere, and their car's broken down. It happens to all of us. But the thing is, okay, the car, cars break down, but part of the NEC, or the part of the restoration show, is giving the clubs also a chance to show people how to fix the cars. So you have a lot of cars on display are work in progress, or people are giving demonstrations on maintenance for the year, and it equalises everything. So you'll have this barn find sim car, for example. The uniqueness of the Practical Classics, restoration show, is the word restoration in the title. This is a show where cars are getting repaired, or for example, these two cars. One of them is as found or mid, just starting the restoration, and the car right next to it is the finished example. So you get to see a transition of, project to pristine, and see the amount of work that's had to go into some of these cars to get them back on the road. And I think that's quite motivating, not just for people to get their projects finished, but also for young people to realise, actually, I can do this, and there are people who are actually quite interested in helping me learn how to do this. And encouraging the next generation into classics is how you keep preserving the classics. And some of the clubs have started their own youth initiatives. So, for example, I was on the Club Triumph stand, and they had a young members section within the club, and I was lucky enough to be able to speak to one of these members and ask him about his car. So I'm here with Callan, that's how you pronounce it, and your Triumph 2500 estate. Why this car?
It was local to me, it was cheap, low mileage. Well, I say cheap, I overpaid for it, but that was part of what drew me to it. Local car, low mileage, local history. A lot of work in it, but I decided it was worthwhile. So.
Yeah, I mean that's part of classic cars, isn't it? Sometimes you've got to put the work in, and I know what you mean about local car and somewhat the right price. If you were stranded at the side of the road, not saying it breaks down, but if you were, what's the first thing you'd like to find other than tools?
Other than tools, 9 times out of 10, water. If I can find water, I'm okay. Most of my issues are coolant related, it seems. On the way here, for example, dropped all my coolant at Cannock. But part of the fun. Part of the fun.
Fun, yeah, fun. That's what we'll call it. Yeah. Well, I can see that it is somewhat lower than standard. So how have you what have you done to it modification wise?
Modification wise, so it's on BMW E46 front coilovers, and I've used BMW E46 adjustable platforms and springs on the back. Nothing special, max speed and rod specials, the go-to drift stuff. Not expecting them to last too terribly long, but proof of concept, it works now. All they are is I just cut the bottom off the original McPherson strut and welded them on, and good to go, it seems.
Well, it's just interesting stuff, knowing that actually there's a few things that you wouldn't think go together, but actually managed to fit quite well and have achieved what you wanted.
Modification work to do it to the actual car itself, so
that's the main thing, and it's easy enough to, if you wanted to, you could almost revert it back to standard if you bought some more struts.
Absolutely.
I imagine you've done a fair bit of work on this car. Have you found any interesting artefacts, any receipts or weird and wonderful things under the carpet?
Nothing from the previous owner, but I did find the original glove box had one of the original assembly guys' names actually marked on the back of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, his name was Paul, apparently. The door cards as well. One of the door cards has got it's got a date. It's got a 72 date on it, and it's got a guy's names scribed into it.
That's really cool.
Aside from that, yeah, nothing from the previous owners or anything, but some cool stuff off of production.
Yeah, no, that is Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing a bit of information about your car. I really like this. I really think this is cool. So, as well as restoration projects and concourse cars, there was quite a selection of modified cars, as I mentioned earlier. This MGB caught my eye, MGB GT, with this MX-5 engine swap, all done at home, and then you had the opposite side of the scene of full custom Vauxhall Viva van, V8, big slot mags, big roof chop, real attention grabbing car. And then you had the more, I'm not going to say traditional, but a sort of a car that's just had little mods done to it throughout the year. So the chin spoiler and ducktail spoiler on this Chrysler Valiant, the wheels, and then things like the sheepskin seat covers and a few other bits and pieces. From the subtle to the more outrageous, this Peking to Paris Chevrolet replica with the wild exhaust that went up and over the wings. Another standout car for me was this Dodge Dart Street Eliminator / Pro Street. It's nostalgia drag car. Beautiful paint job, really well turned out, but really sort of period correct as well, with the steel wheels on the back and the alloy wheels on the front, or mag wheels on the front. And it was just a really nice car. And like, you know, some of an interior, so the original seat, door cards, carpet, dash, but still stripped out and, you know, prepared enough to that it's a proper race car. And with that, it's time to call it a day from the NEC. That's it for this episode. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to keep up to date with all the latest content.